You know, at some point I had kind of gone black when it comes to social media and YouTube and all those different things. Gone off the grid just because I didn't feel like I knew how to navigate that space very well. But some stuff I've learned from Mark that's been super helpful is that we can actually use these platforms, YouTube and Instagram, or the new Instagram TV, Facebook, to share stories of what God is doing. These platforms can also obviously become places of maybe debate or conflict, but in a redemptive aspect.
Becoming a place of conflict.
Yeah, that's right.
What are you outraged about today?
It really, yeah, man. Even for myself, for a while, I just would see things on there that would really make the flesh come out. But in watching the way the Mark has stewarded this space, it's really inspired me to start posting pictures again of whether it's a training or church gathering or going out in the harvest or sharing the gospel, and then encouraging people, hey, we go out on this day of the week, or hey, we meet for prayer on weekday mornings at 7:30, or hey, we have church that meets here on Thursday nights. And it's a constant, I guess that idea of the train going around the city again, it's a constant reminder on people that you already have influence in their lives because whether they follow you or their friends. Yeah. On social media, that maybe at some point they'll see a post and be like, I'd like to check that out, or I'd like to get trained in that tool. Yeah. Or maybe they follow a link and watch a video. And so I've really learned that, everybody is always like this with their phone. And so if they're not going to answer at the knock on their door, then maybe they'll answer on the knock on their feed, as they're scrolling past it. So that's something else that, I think Chuck Wood has had a big impact in that space with Van Time and a lot of the content he puts out there. But I think we would be wise to continue to try and leverage social media and video for saturation of training and equipping and vision casting across the city.
Well, I think there's something, Mark, too, though. Even in conversations we've had, we use WhatsApp for a way for us just to communicate among people who are engaged in No Place Left. Whether we'll use the curious and committed type. I think there's some people in that group that are very committed, but I think there's people that are curious. They're on the sidelines. They're watching what's going on, but they may not be contributors to the conversation. Yeah, but they're watching it. And you and I had that conversation just casually. I think when we were just having Arby's one day, but you had talked about the intentionality that you use even in our WhatsApp group to help communicate those things. So what are some ways that we can leverage social media, leverage WhatsApp, leverage those stories, and avoid two pitfalls? Yeah. One is overhyping what God is doing, where we always show
a highlight reel,
and balance it at the same time, where it's not a let's say a pity party every time, where it's just where we're constantly looking for everybody to affirm us because we're not the most popular in the group or whatever. How do we balance that?
The phrase that God's been just speaking to me about is you really do get more of whatever you celebrate. And if you talk about something a lot, then that you're really putting that forward as what it looks like to be successful. You're defining success every time you celebrate something, every time you respond to something, or how you respond to it is kind of defining success. Right. And so, for example, when we gather for church in our house, if we always share the highlight reel story of sharing the gospel with these 5 people, or sharing the gospel across ethnic lines, or whatever it is, and it sets the bar in such a way that it seems like unattainable to some of the people there, or most of the people there, then it ends up actually quenching them getting in the game.
It's doing the opposite of what we're looking for.
But that's not to say you don't share those, but but maybe just to turn on that lens of being really intentional and understanding how do we make sure that we're primarily celebrating success, or celebrating obedience as success. Right. And so even just we did a youth camp this last week where we were equipping teens with just simple ways to hear God and share the gospel. And even as they went on the streets, for some of them, just having a conversation with somebody even if they stumbled over their words, that was success for them.
Right.
With where they
Of
were at,
course.
taking a step out, going after that was success. And so I think when they came back and they shared that, it was like, hey, let's all clap. Let's all celebrate. They took a step out to communicate.
good.
That was a home run for them.
That's
And so as I think about social media and other platforms, if we can dial into that principle and be intentional, we can celebrate as people are just taking steps of obedience, as well as share some exciting stories of what God's doing. But just getting intentional with it, I think, is kind of part of the key anyway.
And if we're in the social media conversation, we have to be honest. A lot of times when
Yes,
you're looking through your feed
absolutely.
and you see something that happens, we're all men
Yeah.
and women, but men in the general sense of being
Yeah.
human, there's going to be that jealousy bug that's going to pop up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, as you're looking through your social media feed, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you're going to see the picture of that baptism, or you're going to hear this story of 10 trained, or even 1,000 trained, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
What do you guys think is a habit that you guys cultivate? Because we do want to contribute to the conversation, but we also want to go to that conversation, and in a lot of ways, we want to rejoice with them. But sometimes when you're looking through your Facebook feed,
Yeah.
everybody's going to go through that season where they're going to say, "How come not me, Lord?"
Wow.
What do we do with that? What do we do at that moment as we're engaging in social media, but we also know it's creating that moment where we're trying to be intentional, but we can't control the way that they view everything and that see. And I know in my own heart where there are seasons where, especially if it's difficult, and if I'm in that tenacious season,
Yeah.
and I'm asking the Lord for something, and you see something on Facebook, it's very easy to jump in the flesh
Yeah.
and start going, "Well, what about?"
Yeah.
How do we walk through that? What's some advice? What's some wisdom that you guys would have as you look through those things?
Well, I guess I would just primarily say I don't approach it as kind of a primary place for me to be fed or get fed or to
good.
see what God is doing.
Wow.
But I try to use it real strategically.
Right.
As, again, just it's not a different filter
good.
for the gospel is still the filter,
Yeah.
but we're finding out who the hungry people are that are in our city
Yeah.
by if they're going to direct message us on Instagram, if they're going to respond or reshare something, then it's like time to lean into those relationships.
That's good.
So you
But-
really see Facebook, Instagram as a contributor more than a taker.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very important thing to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You're feeding the stream. You're not trying to be fed by the stream.
Yeah. In fact, I'm real careful how often I even get on or what I'm looking at on there because I
Wow.
think primarily I want to be giving and using the medium rather than letting it use me. You know.
Right.
Wow. That's a good word.
Right.
So.
It's important. I mean, it's a reality where as people are scrolling through that, our culture is getting, like you said, they're getting tied to that phone.
Uh-huh.
And even in No Place Left, or even of us trying to
Yeah.
glorify the Lord and push that. The further down you go with that stream, the more your mind starts to go, "What about me?" And then you see another picture and
Yeah,
another picture
yeah.
and another picture,
Wow.
and you'll sit on that stream, and before long, you're going into a funk where you come over to the Word of God. It's going to be boiling into your heart and overflowing.
Yeah.
That's going to be sucking it out of you.
That's right.
So if we can hopefully get to that place where there's going to be people on there anyway.
Of
They're
course.
there anyway,
Of
and we
course.
see it as this is a way to get a hook out there that
Yeah.
maybe gets somebody interested, starts to cast vision for what their life could be like,
That's good.
and hopefully they move to that place where they're not attaching their identity to that.
That's
But maybe this
awesome.
is a
Yeah.
way to reach people
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
otherwise not hearing it.
So both of you guys, I hear you saying social media really is kind of another hook, as you
Yeah.
said, Carter, is a knock on the door to be able to see that. I think with me, I go into my little Twitter flurries every now and then.
Every now and then.
I just have a thought. I have a thought, and usually mine come from I've just spent time with a disciple making moment, or with a leader, or in a conversation, and those things are birthed out of. These are the barriers I saw, or the things that I would communicate that I would see, or just takeaways. They're just really just takeaways where I'm saying I'm processing what I learned. And I'm putting it out there. Selfishly, it's like a journal. I probably got a journal on my own. So I can put it on Twitter and put a hashtag, and I can find those things. But really, it's just my way of going out there. And I found a number of times that it has hooked
Yeah.
friends from my
Yeah.
past, or people who have
Yeah.
messaged me or whatever.
No, I think it's good.